Welcome to Mana's Seal YouTube channel. The previous video link is on the description box or on the top right card. Volume 12. The Paladin of the Holy Kingdom. Neia had prepared herself to be scolded by Remedios, and sure enough, after their return to the inn, it came. Do you know what you've done? Remedios' face was red as she closed in on Neia. Vice Captain Gustavo hurriedly held out his arms and stepped between Neia and the captain. Captain Custodio. A moment please. There is no denying the Squire Barrage's actions were those of a rogue, but ultimately, she saved us a year of waiting. Is that not something worthy of praise? What nonsense are you talking about? The whole thing might go up in smoke because of her. Also, you want me to praise her for acting on her own? Are you kidding me? I sincerely apologize. Neia bowed her head as she apologized with heartfelt sincerity. Are you really sorry for this? Maybe you were lucky this time, but can you take responsibility if things end up turning bad for us? The blame rests on your servant. I know that already. Answer me. Can you face all the suffering people of the Holy Kingdom and tell them that help won't be coming because of you? No, your servant cannot bear that responsibility. In that case, then why did you just jump in and do that? What on earth were you thinking? Neia raised her head and looked straight at the captain. Should the need arise, I feel you should take my life and offer it to the Sorcerer King as an apology for my actions. Remedios' eyes went white as she heard that. However, they quickly narrowed in displeasure once more. Beside her, Vice Captain Gustavo nodded vigorously in what seemed like respect. Do you think that's enough to earn forgiveness? Do you think a life like yours will be enough of an apology? I do not know, but I am certain you and the others will be able to think of something, Captain. And what will you do if we can't think of anything? It was as the captain said. It was likely that even executing Neia would not be enough to earn the Sorcerer King's forgiveness. However, Neia had still said what she had in the audience chamber, because 3 years was far too long to wait. Could it be the captain was willing to accept waiting for 3 years? Why am I being scolded by someone who didn't do anything? I know that the lives of the Holy Kingdom's people hang in the balance, so I shouldn't act of my own accord. Even so, someone should have done something back then. Was it not alright as long as there was a good outcome, or was the process more important? She probably could not give an answer like that. Even so, it was hard for someone who had stepped forward to do something to endure a lecture from someone who had done nothing. Of course, Neia had a pretty good idea of what would happen if she actually said that. Therefore, she remained quiet and simply lowered her head. Captain, that should be enough. Thanks to her efforts, we saved a year of waiting. Rewards and punishment need to be used in balance. Perhaps you ought to be praising her to a similar extent. Gee. The captain looked like she had not yet said her fill as she turned and left. Gustavo sighed, and then turned to face Neia. Your resolve is truly admirable. The captain might look that way, but the truth is, she respects her contributions. That was most definitely a lie. That was a lie which nobody could cover up. Perhaps Gustavo had sensed her thoughts from her expression, but he looked her in the eye and then smiled, bitterly. In any case, I'll go talk to the captain about this. However, if you run into her now, things might get a bit prickly. Could I trouble you to take a walk outside for a bit? I understand. Thank you, Vice Captain. Once outside the inn, Neia wandered aimlessly through the chill of winter. I just feel, Well, she had been told to go outside, where should she go in this country? Neia felt around in her pockets and produced a small leather pouch. There was little money inside, just a few copper and silver coins from the Holy Kingdom. If those could not be used, Neia still had a trading gold coin. It would be more than enough to get a meal. However, this gold coin was the very last piece of pocket money Neia's parents had given her. Where should she spend this valuable piece of pocket money? Neia looked at the foreign land before her. What a pain. You seem to be sighing quite heavily. The sudden voice from close by made Neia's shoulders shudder. Hurry up and go down that road over there. This place is too obvious. The owner of this voice was not someone she would forget in a hurry. Neia managed to stop herself from exclaiming reflexively. After that, she walked as directed, and then she heard something moving from behind her. It would seem that it was not just a voice she was hearing, but that there was someone actually behind Neia, although said person had made themselves invisible so Neia could not see them. After turning down the road as directed, she heard the voice say, "Take the alley on the left." Neia obeyed silently. The alley was surprisingly clean, with no passers-by. After walking several steps, Neia turned and spoke the name of the voice's owner. Your Majesty, dare I ask why you have come here? Am I unable to see you because of magic? I see, so that's why you were so obedient. You already knew who I was. Saying so, the Sorcerer King revealed himself. He had changed into an unassuming black robe, but even that gleamed like velvet. It would seem it was a very well-made piece of clothing. Neia immediately genuflected before him. Yes, it is as your majesty says. Also, may I ask where your majesty's followers are? No, there are none. After all, having followers around would make things troublesome. Why is that? I want to speak with your captain in private, so please go and get her. No, it would be better to do so in a room. Can you help me open the window of her room? I will enter through there. That was a bizarre request. Normally, she would not open the window just like that. However, she was dealing with the king of this country, and a king who had agreed to aid the Holy Kingdom. She could not do anything to ruin his mood. The word assassination flashed through Neia's mind, but if the Sorcerer King had wanted to do that, he could have done so in the audience chamber. Of course, this might be someone masquerading as the Sorcerer King. However, the person before her had the form of an imposing ruler, so he was unmistakably the Sorcerer King from back then. Every move he made was something that was only possible by someone who was a board ruler. Should she trust him, or not? Neia pondered this, and chose the former. Understood. I shall do so immediately. Yumu, come to think of it, were you sent out on a mission? If that was the case, I ought to apologize to your captain. Neia's eyes met those of the Sorcerer King. If it was not a mission, then this must be your own free time. No. In that case, it is very valuable. I should apologize to you for taking up your precious rest time by making you do things. No, it's not. It's nothing of the sort in any case. I will go and open the window to the captain's room now. Neia immediately ran from the Sorcerer King's side. Those kind words from a third party were like someone carefully applying a soothing liniment to a palm covered in scrapes and bruises. They seeped into Neia's heart, and they surprised her. Neia ran with all her might, and swiftly returned to the inn. Of course, running was not permitted inside a high-end establishment like this, but that was no reason for Neia to slowly walk around. All she could do was move as quickly as she could without causing any offense, but despite all that, she could feel icy glares directed at her by the inn's staff. In the end, however, Neia finally reached the captain's room. Neia immediately knocked on the door, and then found it was locked when she tried to handle. A chill ran through Neia's heart as she realized she had been ostracized, but now was not the time to worry about that sort of thing. I am Squire Neia Baraja, please open the door. The door clicked, and a paladin showed his face from behind it. Forgive me, she said. Now was not the time to observe each and every point of etiquette. Neia then turned to Remedios, who was within the room, and said, The Sorcerer King wishes to speak to you in private, Captain. Neia could sense everyone's eyes looking behind her back. No, that's not it. He's not there. Saying so, Neia strode over to the window and opened it. As expected of a high-class establishment, the windows slid smoothly open, without any trace of jamming. What the? From a third party's perspective, this was a sudden rash outburst. It was only natural that a paladin would bellow at her. It was even less tolerable for a paladin who had once been placed in charge of the Holy Queen's security. However, Neia ignored them as she leaned her upper body out of the window and waved to the Sorcerer King, who ought to be outside. After that, Neia was dragged back in by her collar. What are you doing, Squire Baraja? Don't just open the windows like that, and more importantly, there's no sign of the Sorcerer King. Looking back, she saw a red-faced paladin. His anger was understandable. However, that will do, I think. She broke your rules at my behest. If blame must be assigned, then let it fall upon me. The quiet voice echoed through the room. The Sorcerer King slowly revealed himself from where he stood upon the window frame. Neia saw a paladin reaching for the longsword at his waist, and frantically made to stop him. I apologize for alarming you. I chose to come by myself because I wish to speak with you in private. While it might be somewhat rude to enter via a window, it cannot be helped for the sake of going incognito. I hope you can understand that, and I must apologize to her as well. After descending from the windowsill, the Sorcerer King surveyed the interior of the room with the regal poise of a king. I am the Sorcerer King Ainz. Upon the mention of his name, Neia fell to one knee before anybody else. A moment later, she heard the paladins behind her simultaneously genuflecting. Very well. You may arise, since there is no time, is it convenient to have a word with you, Captain Custodio? We have no objections, Your Majesty. Then, please come this way. As Neia rose, she let her breath out, just in time to meet the eyes of the Sorcerer King, who had turned around. Of course, there were no eyeballs in the Sorcerer King's eye sockets, so saying she gazed into his eyes was purely Neia's imagination. Will that squire not be taking part? She is but a squire, Your Majesty. Was she not present at the audience chamber just now? The Sorcerer King's natural tone made him sound like he genuinely did not know. However, his words contained a powerful sense of sarcasm. Squire Baraja, come join us. Yes. Although Neia was not very keen on taking part, for some reason she dearly wanted to know why the Sorcerer King had chosen to pay them a visit. Remedios and Gustavo faced the Sorcerer King over a table, while Neia and the others stood by the walls. This was the same way in which they had received Blue Rose. Now then, your majesty, please permit me to ask a direct question. May I inquire as to why you have graced our humble lodgings? Remedios nodded after Gustavo spoke. But of course, like I said earlier, I dislike beating around the bush. After all, doing so makes it easy for one's words to be misinterpreted or have their meanings twisted. There was a sense of reality to the Sorcerer King's words, which could not quite be articulated. Well, I have decided to send Momin over in 2 years. If you will accede to a request of mine, it would not be impossible for me to dispatch someone on par with Momin from the Sorcerer's Kingdom. On par with Momin? Remedios could not help but exclaim. May I know the nature of the request which your majesty wishes to make? Depending on the nature of the request, I pray you will forgive us if we cannot immediately give your majesty an answer. The Sorcerer King chuckled in response to Gustavo's words, and then he spoke. But of course, given your present state, I can roughly imagine, now, calling you a resistance movement would be a pretty spin on things, but the fact is that you are most likely a band of guerrillas hiding in caves, am I wrong? Everyone present held their breath.